It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
All right, this one is a long question, but I know a lot of people are thinking this, so I'm going to do this. And this is from Andrew, and this is actually a Facebook question. The housing market here in, I'm going to say the city, you could basically fill in the blank because it seems like every city right now, but the housing market here in Atlanta area is nuts. We've lost 3 houses because others are getting rid of contingencies, especially inspection and appraisal. We're not willing to do that or get that risky. We've offered well above asking price each time, but continue to get outbid. Should we just wait until next year to buy? At the same time, we're sitting on $300,000 of home equity in our current house with multiple kids, and we need a bigger home. I'm trying to balance capturing our equity and not getting ripped off on the purchase of the next home. What would you do? Thanks. I feel like so many people are in that situation right now, right? I've made money on this house and I want to get to another house, but I don't want to spend that money. So the houses that I keep making offers on, you know, it goes pre-market and there's 40 offers and we're asking, and they're just moving and they're just going and they're just moving and they're just going. How do you figure that out?
I'm going to talk to, who asked this question?
This is Andrew.
Andrew, I'm going to talk to you like you're, you know, we get told all the time, we're like your buddy you sit around a campfire and have the beer with. This is the unique thing that we're dealing with right now. I do think, look, life happens, and even if you're buying at the tippity top of a market, you know, you do this long enough because you need it for the right reasons. Your family's growing. It probably all works out, but there is something really that irks me about this current market.
Yep.
Is that I have, throughout my life, the more prepared you are, the more research you do, you get rewarded.
Generally speaking.
In life. And in this real estate market right now, it is just so blows my mind that all the due diligence is just out the window. Yep. And the fact that they're not allowing you to do inspections, the appraisals no longer being allowed in a lot of these cases. So let me, like I said, we're at the campfire. I don't think that this is a bubble forming, meaning I don't think that housing prices are going to, if you wait, you're going to be able to pick up the house that you looked at last week for 30% cheaper because the bubble burst. I think what you're likely to see is we have a distortion in the marketplace and the fact that, yes, prices are going to go up. And eventually the supply and demand will equalize on the inventory because right now there's just no inventory. And what will happen is just price increases will slow down at that point. And I'm hoping what happens when that happens is also common sense of, hey, on such a big purchase, it might make sense that you get to do an inspection. It also might make sense that you get to get an appraisal done, and that's going to drive whether this deal moves forward. Though that has to come back. This is the distortion that I see going on right now, is that all the due diligence is being waived. That would scare me tremendously. I would be in the same boat in this. And yes, you could capture a tremendous amount of opportunity on your current home, but I got to believe if you're buying bigger, there's still going to be a big step to go, and you don't want to go buy somebody else's huge mistake. So I can't answer specifically for Andrew, but if I was in my own and putting myself in his situation, I would probably really have to think long and hard because I don't know that I'd be willing to waive all due diligence. Yeah, that just bothers me.
When things start defying common sense, that's when my spidey sense goes off. When things start like, that just doesn't add up, that doesn't pass a sniff test. And buying a major piece of real estate with no appraisal, no due diligence, no inspection, that kind of freaks me out a little bit. And I think about risk, right? If you're trying to find a home to put your family in, is your risk greater overpaying for a house that you're going to be in for 10, 12, 15? Maybe, you want to pay $400,000, but all the houses you're seeing are $475,000. I'm making up numbers here. That's a risk, but that's probably a bigger risk than buying. I mean, that's probably not as big of a risk of buying a house that might have something major wrong with it, that might have some big issue that you don't know about, or that I just think that if you stay diligent, eventually there will come a house that's going to be available. You may have to adjust your price range. You may have to adjust your location. You may have to adjust the things that you know that you want. Or if you're unwilling to waver on some of those things, then you may just have to wait. And that's okay. Another option you can look at is if you're in a house right now that you really love, but there are some things that don't work, like there's not enough space for the family. A lot of folks are beginning to think about renovating their current houses because they can't find something new at the price they want and the place they want. You may want to see, is there an option there? Are there ways that we could better utilize the space that we always have? But it's tough.
I also think here's something that, because I just learned, what I love about life is you learn stuff constantly. I had a property and casualty insurance agent talking about the fact that my house is now getting old enough that it's rolling off of the discounts that new construction counts for because it's getting to be 6 or 7 years old. So I think that there's a reason insurance companies phase out, they differentiate between new construction versus more of a maturing house, is because a mature house, things break.
Yep.
I mean, it's just a fact about owning a house is that you start having things go bad. So maybe you could reverse the arbitrage situation. If you live in an older house that has a lot of headaches, I mean, I'm not going to say names because they've moved on from these houses, but I've seen houses that people lived in where you find out that somebody previously on this 40-year-old home, they put in the wrong pipe size for the air conditioner. So it didn't matter how big of an air conditioner you put outside, you were always going to have trouble keeping the house cool because somebody cheaped out at some point and you'd have to replace all the ventilation to make it happen. You got to believe if you live in one of those houses right now where the warts and the disgusting parts of your house, you got to be licking your chops right now because you go, man,
this is
I
my
could
opportunity.
finally get rid of this house that has this $25,000 mistake that I can get out of this thing scot-free. And maybe you could go play the arbitrage to your benefit, get out with it while they're waiving all the due diligence, and then go buy something that's maybe a less than a 5-year-old house, and maybe your risk is not as big. So there are creative ways. And then, Bo, you also said we know people all around here who instead of buying the bigger house, they're renovating their smaller house into a bigger house. So I would get creative, do it Financial Mutant style, because everybody's situation is a little different. But that's one more reason why you need to be very careful right now with waiving due diligence, is because you got to believe I'm not the first person to think about this is the time to ditch this headache.
That's right.
I mean, go watch the Tom Hanks movie Money Pit, and you'll get a big indicator on why due diligence is so important.
We should just show that to the content team. They'd never seen it. Isn't that wild? They'd never seen that movie.
By the way, experience share. Tom Hanks was just in The Good Cup, which is right down the street from my
at the
house.
coffee shop by your house?
Here's what I found out. Somebody in that Thing You Do, that movie he made years ago, the lead in that movie is supposedly lives somewhere around us. And Tom Hanks was in there. Everybody said he was the nicest guy. So I thought that was just an experience share that, because it made me think of Money Pit. You see how my brain works and arcs.
That part was for free.